All right. Well, Torpedo Monkey asks, why is the CON-40 designed as it is? What's the function of the small metal orbs in the mouth of the ... We know what you're talking about, Torp.
Okay, so Pilot has had a number of converters, probably more converters than I can think of any other pen company having over the years.
Agreed.
And not just because they've been around a long time, even just since we've been in business, they've had more converters than anybody else I know.
Well, they have a lot of simultaneously sold different converters. It's not like they're just versions or iterations. They will sell different styles of converters.
Which I love. I wish we had. I mean, okay, I don't know. Maybe I should think about how I'm phrasing that. I was gonna say I wish we had more converter options, but it's like it is kind of confusing already which converters go with which pens. So never mind, forget that. I don't wish we had more converter options. I wish we had fewer options that worked just better on every pen.
There you go.
That's what I should say.
I don't think anybody would disagree with you there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm a tinkerer, so I think having different converters are just neat, and I love seeing how they all work. But it is confusing. Okay. Anyway, I have a video already on the CON-40. It's called How to Fully Fill a Pilot CON-40 Cartridge Converter Pen. So definitely check that out because I'm going to duplicate some of what I talk about here over there, and I have more macro video stuff, and it'll maybe a little more instructive over there, but can at least give some context here as well. So the goal in designing the CON-40, it's their, I guess, latest new converter that they've done, was to make something that would fit all the past Pilot and Namiki pens that they've done, because I don't know if you heard, but they've been around for a while. So I don't know exactly how far back, because I don't really hear of people using Pilot pens that are older than like the original Namiki caplesses in like the 70s. So there may be older pens that go back before those, but I haven't really met a lot of people that are using converters in those pens. But anyway, so the CON-40 basically has to work in several decades of the latest Pilot and Namiki pens. So that's part of the constraints that they have to work in, is there's a lot of historically, available and used pens that whatever new converter that they might design has to be able to be compatible with. Because you can imagine, much like if you're getting a new phone and all of a sudden they change the plug on it and you're like, great, I have like 40 plug accessories that are now outdated and I have to get all new plugs and everything.
Or a new MacBook.
Annoying. Yeah. So super annoying. We're used to that in our technology life, but a little more annoying in the pen life. So it is cool that whenever they design a new converter, they are taking that into account. But the reason they specifically designed, and because you're talking about the metal orbs, which I've never heard them called orbs. I don't know. I just find that very interesting. I like that. Yeah, it sounds very, mystical.
Metal orbs.
Metal orbs, yes. Floating around inside your converter. So, basically they are agitators. They're little agitator balls. So part of the issue that Pilot was having, and we were around for this years ago, when they had the CON-50, before they had any kind of agitator in there. If you think about the way that you're holding a pen, you have a pen. This is a bad example because it is a piston, but whatever. You'll get the idea. When you have a pen and it's capped, or the VP kind of works the same way. When it's in your pocket or in your pen case or whatever, and you have it with the clip in, the nibs pointing up, your ink is going towards the back of the pen. So all the ink is hanging down here. Well, when you write with it, you're then flipping it over. So that ink needs to be able to fall down, which usually it does without any kind of a problem. But I guess there was an issue sometimes with the old CON-50 converter where the ink was hanging up in the back of the pen when it was, not completely full, but maybe halfway or a little bit less. The ink was hanging up in the back, which then if the ink's not making contact with the feed, it can't flow through the pen, obviously. So they were having an issue with it seeming like there was not a lot of ink capacity with these pens because the ink was hanging up in the back of the converter a lot. So they added this big fat metal agitator in there. And I think I talk about this in the CON-40 video. I can't remember. But there was this big fat agitator, which helped with that, but then it took up some of the ink capacity. So I think they went to these tiny little balls so that it would agitate it, but not take up a whole ton of space because, again, they're constrained on the size of the converter. They try to make the ink capacity as great as they can within its constraints, but you got to fit the mechanism in there and all that. And then when you have an agitator in there, you got a lot of conflicting different physical properties that are all competing with each other. And this was the greatest compromise that they were able to come up with. So, it kind of is what it is. And they're not the only ones with an agitator. You know, I know that Monograppa has had a little agitator in some of their converters, not all of them, but they've had it sometimes. I'm trying to remember if there's other...
Cartridges have done it.
Cartridges, yeah. There's a lot of cartridges. Platinum has a big metal ball that seals up their cartridge. But even just your regular standard international cartridge, that is actually sealed. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but it's sealed with a little plastic ball. And when you puncture that, that little ball actually detaches completely from the front of the cartridge, and it will then be, you know, knocking around inside of the cartridge. So I guess part of it is to help agitate like that. So why Pilot went specifically with, I think it's 3 little agitator balls, 3 or 4. Why they went with multiple balls, I guess they did testing and they just determined that was what was best for them, for what they were trying to do. And I don't know, they didn't like tell us exactly why they design everything that they design, but I imagine they did some degree of testing in order to find what would agitate the best, and that's what they came up with. So that's what they're there for. And yeah, not completely unheard of to have some orbs in your converter, but I think Pilot, just because they're one of the most well-known brands and because so many people are getting pens with these converters on them, they're just the most well-known for having this particular thing. So that's yeah, that's pretty much what I know about it.
And obviously there's a metal gate or a metal cage of some sort that actually stops the balls from going past, you know, where they should. So that's in there too. But that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, because otherwise the orbs would then come out of the converter when you get it.
It does make me wonder, like, what's stopping the orbs in like the cartridges from plugging the hole?
Well, it's
the
because
the post goes up. Never mind.
Yeah, well, also they're like, you know, they're even if you take a cartridge out and it's empty, you can see the little ball kind of rattling around in there. It's because I guess when they seal it somehow they like put. I don't actually know how this process works because I've never seen it done, but I imagine they have that ball. The ball is like placed in place, and then they like seal the cartridge kind of around the ball. So when you're poking it in, the ball physically will not be able to just with gravity fall out of the opening of the converter or the cartridge. You would have to like push it to dislodge it. And when you're dislodging it into it, then it's, you know, it's not going to come out. So yeah, there you go. Learning all kinds of things today.